This is the second day of our trip to Yellowstone National Park. As I said in the last video, in order to have a better view and a better picture of Grand Prismatic Spring, you need to go to the viewpoint on a small hill behind it. But from Midway Geyser Basin parking lot, there is no access to the trailhead of Grand Prismatic Spring overlook. You need to go to the next stop, Fairy Falls Trailhead, which is now shown in many Yellowstone's map. It's actually quite close to Midway Geyser Basin and could easily be missed. From the parking lot, Grand Prismatic Spring Overlook Trail share the first half mile with Fairy Falls Trail. After reaching the fork, remember to take the trail on the left that goes up the hill to continue to Grand Prismatic Spring Overlook. Otherwise, after about 2 miles hike, you will reach Fairy Falls, which is a pretty waterfall, but not Grand Prismatic Spring. On our way to Grand Prismatic Spring Overlook, we saw a bison lying on the ground, not moving at all. I felt a little embarrassed that right after I declared the bison was dead or dying to my kids, it moved its tail a bit. It turned out the bison was just taking a nap. I guess it's just not a morning bison. It showed that city dwellers like me knew very little about how bison or cattle sleep. The overlook is about 100 feet up the hill. At this overlook, you could finally have a decent view and a good picture of Grand Prismatic Spring, which has astounding beauty. We took many pictures and selfies, but it's hard to completely avoid the tall pine trees. On our way back, we saw a grizzly on a small hill. Even though it's really far away, park rangers were there to monitor the situation. Also, the bison that fooled me earlier finally woke up. Then the second stop we went to was Gibbon Falls. The viewpoint was about 4 miles east of Madison Junction. The water of Gibbon Falls gently dropped 84 feet to form a view over a remnant of the Yellowstone caldera rim. The caldera was created by the latest super volcano eruption, 630,000 years ago. The rock wall on the opposite side of the road from the waterfall is the inner rim of the caldera. This massive caldera is measured at 30 by 45 miles. We also took some photos of wildflowers here. Cinquefoil has a small corolla of soft yellow petals. Sulfur buckwheat has light yellow flowers. Woodland star has small white flowers. After Gibbon Falls, we went to Norris Geyser Basin. It may not have the largest hot spring nor the most geysers, but it's the hottest and the most acidic hydrothermal area in Yellowstone. It's outside but close to the Yellowstone caldera and on the intersection of 3 major faults. This is the primary reason it's so hot here that the temperatures of many hot springs and fumaroles reach boiling point. A fumarole is another type of hydrothermal feature with so little water in its system that the water boils away before reaching the surface. At the beginning of the trail to Porcelain Basin, the northern part of Norris Geyser Basin, there is a black growler fumarole. Steam and other gases emerge from its vent, making a hissing sound. Fumaroles are the hottest hydrothermal features, with temperatures as high as 280 degrees Fahrenheit. There are several not-so-active geysers, hot springs, and their colorful run of water with different thermophiles living there. A large hot spring called Crackling Lake at the end of the trail. Back Basin is the southern part of Norris Geyser Basin. Emerald Spring was the first hot spring we saw on the trail. The water's green color is coming from inherent blue of the water combined with the yellow of the sulfur deposits. Then we passed Steamboat Geyser, which was the tallest active geyser. Its major eruptions are so powerful that water could reach 300 feet high, and the cars in the nearby parking lot may have a hot and acid water car wash. However, the major eruptions are unpredictable and could be months or years apart. The last major eruptions was just 20 days ago when we were there, so we moved on to see Cistern Spring and several small geysers. Lastly, we saw Pork Chop Geyser. It used to be a small hot spring that has the shape of, you guessed it, pork chop. Then, one day in 1989, it had an explosion that upended the old vent and threw some rocks 200 feet high. This event shows that geysers and hot springs are very fragile hydrothermal features. They depend on the underground heat source, water, and the surrounding rocks working in harmony. Any small difference could result in significant changes to those hydrothermal systems. It's like a chaos system.
Same place again. Right. Which way is going to roll off?
Let's say back. Same way.
Same way. Same back. Same way. It changed. Why? Because tiny variations, the orientation of the hairs on your hands.
Hey, Ellen, look at this.
The amount of blood descending your vessels, imperfections in the skin.
Imperfections in the skin?
Microscopic. And never repeat and vastly affect the outcome. That's...
Even coins thrown in a vent could fundamentally damage a hydrothermal feature. The Minute Geyser is an example. With its plumbing system plugged by coins and other objects, it lost its power and glory forever. So please protect those fragile natural wonders for the future generations to enjoy. Then we continued following the Grand Loop Road to the east until we reached the north rim of the Grand Canyon of Yellowstone. The lower falls is the most powerful waterfall in Yellowstone. Water rushes out the brink and plunges down 308 feet to create a huge amount of steam. The roaring sound of splashing water could even be heard at Lookout Point on the North Rim Drive. Grand Viewpoint is a great place to see the 1,000 feet deep V-shaped Grand Canyon carved by the Yellowstone River. The yellow rhyolite canyon walls gave the Native American people living downstream the inspiration to call this river Yellowstone. If you look carefully, you could see hot waters from geysers and hot springs running down the cliffs. This makes the canyon walls colorful and softens the rhyolite rocks. At the end of North Rim Drive is the inspiration point, from which you could see the lower falls from a distance. After we had an early dinner at Canyon Village, we arrived at Upper Falls Viewpoint on the South Rim Drive. Surprisingly, there were few people here. Besides taking some pictures of the 109-foot Upper Falls, the kids played some hide-and-seek with a chipmunk. We also found a couple of marmots relaxing and scratching on the rock close to the cliffs. They are called yellow-bellied marmots, but I don't think they like to show their yellow belly very much. A bull elk was lying on the grass not far away from the paved trail. Its antlers were still covered by velvet, but the velvet seems thinner and not that fluffy anymore. Maybe the new antlers will be ready soon. Afterwards, we drove to Hidden Valley, trying to see more animals in dusk. This vast valley is one of the primary wild animal viewing areas in Yellowstone. Several good spots are filled with wild animal enthusiasts with long telephoto lens. We managed to find a place with less crowd. This section of Yellowstone River is so gentle that it's hard to believe it's the same river that contains such tremendous power and carved out the Grand Canyon just 5 miles downstream. The view here is so quiet and peaceful. Flocks of Canadian geese and some other water birds are swimming or resting on the islands in the middle of the river. Only a few bison and elks were grazing on the riverbank. A large herd of bison already roamed behind the hills, and we could see them tomorrow morning after they come back. Before going to our hotel, we made a final stop at Mud Volcano area. The Mud Volcano has a 30 feet tall cone that makes it look like a volcano with boiling mud. It's very unique in the sense that few mudpot has cone, let alone such a tall cone. Mudpot is the fourth type of hydrothermal feature in Yellowstone. It is like a natural double boiler. Surface water collects in a shallow, impermeable depression that has no direct connection to the underground superheated water. So the surface water is heated, but actually not that hot. The reason that the mudpot is bubbling is because some gas is constantly emitting from the bottom, especially the hydrogen sulfide gas, which gives the characteristic odor of rotten eggs. Then, some microorganisms help convert the gas to sulfuric acid, which breaks down a rock into wet clay, that is the gooey stuff. This makes mudpot the most acidic hydrothermal feature. Dragon's Mouth Spring is a unique hot spring. Hot steam and water are coming from a small cave in the hill, which makes it look like a dragon's mouth or snout of an angry bull bison. The water level of this hot spring dropped significantly since 1999. Now, hardly any water is coming out from the cave. This concludes our second day at Yellowstone. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.